Good afternoon. Welcome to the Business Boardcast in this lovely sunny afternoon. Hopefully, if you are watching live, you are outside in somewhere absolutely lovely because it's such beautiful weather. Unless I'm really sorry if you are somewhere it's not, but down in Berkshire, it's looking absolutely beautiful. Today, we've got Kim Searle with us. Welcome, Kim.
Hello, thank you very much for having me here today. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. So, this is a subject which I think is really, really important. Various different reasons. You know me, I say two reasons and then I'll come up with four. That's my usual thing to
Fall
do.
off my own heart, quite
So the initial things why I think it's just so important for us to focus on confidence and self-esteem is you will find. So I've got hair in my hat. That's annoying. That self-esteem is that you've probably got some really great people in your organization they're technically excellent, they're just brilliant with their customer service, so amazing, but something is holding them back for going up to the next level, you know, which generally their confidence. So this is why particularly I want to focus on that today. Also, and confidence does affect all genders, but I do see this even more so with females. I hate generalizations, so but I would say of the percentage of people that I have had in my teams over the years, generally it's usually often the women that are not as confident, but there are certainly plenty of others out there as well that could do with a self-esteem boost. So that's sort of two reasons why I particularly wanted us to focus on today when Kim suggested this topic, and I thought, brilliant, absolutely. The other thing is the pay gap. So I see, as an accountant, I see what a lot of people earn. And actually in all my roles, I've always been could see what everybody earned in an organization, which is always eye-opening. And I can pretty much say that usually the difference between somebody who's on a good six figures, and this is not just on the cusp six figures, but 300,000 more, and somebody that's perhaps on 50, 60, exactly the same good technically, customer service, strategy, everything else. Difference is confidence. That's usually the main difference. So many reasons there of why I think it's great that we're talking about for confidence. So thank you so much for suggesting this to me, Kim. And let's get to it. So for Confidence 101, what is confidence?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of people will display confidence in a very different way. For me, it is the external behaviors around an internal frame of reference of how people see themselves. So you mentioned self-esteem. For me, self-esteem is our personal measurement of us, and consequently, if that is low, we don't rate ourselves, we're measuring ourselves, whatever, then that will impact our confidence in certain areas. So confidence for me is it's all encompassing. It's what we believe about ourselves, it's how we feel about ourselves, it's what we think about ourselves, and most definitely how we act.
Okay. No, that's really good to have a frame of reference there. Just a bit of housekeeping. Please do. We love to see who's watching live. So please do say hello, or if you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat. I can see we've got, I think it's a new viewer today as well, Francesca. So hi, Francesca. Lovely to,
Hello, Francesca. Thank you.
lovely to join us today. So yeah, do pop out and I will intersperse with questions as we go. Next thing I just want to go through is yeah, sorry, flicks it up. How can someone be confident in some areas, not others? And that's, I'm a classic example. I can speak in front of thousands of people on my work subjects. In fact, any work subject, I'm not really bothered. I can ad lib off anything. Yeah, going into a social party, absolutely hate it, and I feel terrible. So, why is that? Why do we have different confidence in different circumstances?
Yeah, so I think first thing is it's not black and white, obviously, but so what I say isn't going to be applicable across the board, but it's a generalization. So we're very good at that. So I think the first thing is how we see ourselves. Our brain has been designed to keep us safe, but it's also designed to help us fit in. And when you start to stand up in somewhere and become visible to more than one or two people, suddenly your brain's like, oh, what's going on? And depending on your past experiences, the things that you've learnt about yourself, they can all start to come to play. And consequently, therefore, your confidence can be affected in a big way. So it's very much about how your brain sees you standing up in front of a room of people or in a social situation, because that's more personal, isn't it? It's, they're not people you don't need to see again, but these are people who know you, and suddenly you're just a little bit more cautious about who you are.
Yeah, indeed. And my theory at the beginning of that, I do see a lot more women not being so confident. I'm not saying that these lovely people that are watching today aren't brimming for confidence, but I can see that we are joined from some lovely ladies today. So hi to Jenny, hi to Nancy, and hi to the lovely Lynn. So so we can all the ladies are here today. It's like Ascot Ladies Day.
Comment on that, actually, because you're right. I think there is a gender thing, male and female, although that's not generalized in terms of, well, it is generalized, but it's not specific when you get down to individuals. But I think one of the things certainly with women is just the way that we have been raised and what's been going on. And guys actually will have the same thing, just that you won't see it so much. They've got a very good facade going on there, whereas a lot of women are just out there, particularly with other women. What are we like? We are more ourselves and more likely to express what's going on. Guys, it will change, and probably for the younger generation it's already started to change. Certainly for the older generation, there's a more guarded approach. Do not let anybody see the weakness, which is lack of confidence.
Okay, interesting. So why might they have low self-confidence?
Yeah, so there's a number of different things. It will be, I mentioned earlier that the brain is a learning machine, and there are 3 phases that it will go through. And then unless something big happens or you have some sort of aha moment, it'll stay the same, because the brain is trying to keep you safe and utilize its resources to do that. So the more it can automate your processes, sounds like a business, exactly the same. The more it can automate the processes, the better it feels. And so consequently, if you've learned something in the past that has been not kind to you or has been hurtful or dangerous, your brain's learned to avoid it. And so consequently, it's our past learnings and experiences that contribute to who we are today. Some of that can be a lack of support that we've had at some point, during our lifetime. And I think it leads really nicely into, we take responsibility, certainly at an early age, for we were to blame. And so this faulty critical thinking can start. And that is a big area.
So we're already getting questions in, Kim.
Oh, lovely.
So Francesca's asking me something, but she's referring to a post that she wrote earlier, and I've been in meetings since like 7 o'clock this morning. So Francesca, if you could actually just write that question again in the comments, that would be super. And it's not just all the ladies.
No.
Well, it's Nigel and the ladies today.
Nigel,
so
thank you for joining.
thanks, Nigel. But we have a really great question, and this is from someone who actually She appears all brimming with confidence because she does lots of our video work with us, is the lovely Kirsty Ames. And she's asking, now this is an interesting question. What do you think about imposter syndrome? Because I know that this isn't just a female thing. I know that, for example, my podcast, my favorite podcast, which is Ian Dale, he's always going on about imposter syndrome. What's your thought? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And absolutely, I get guys coming to me for all the things that we're talking about here. So this is not, just a female thing. But the imposter syndrome is a term that was coined back in the 80s or 90s by some psychologists looking at very much the performance of women, funny enough. But it's, for me, it's doubt. It's doubting yourself. It's looking at others and thinking they're doing better than you. And it's downplaying who you are. So is it real? Yes, it is. What you call it is entirely up to you, because it's linked to confidence, and doubt is very heavily a driver for lack of confidence.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We doubt who
Makes
we are,
sense.
we doubt what we do, we
It's
doubt
that inner voice going, isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah.
Very
Now, Francesca, thank you so much. She's written down what her question was from this morning, which is brilliant. So thank you so much for that. And she's saying, thanks, Nick. Oh, it's Nikki, not Nancy, but anyway, it's a typo. Why do we worry about filters and looking perfect? Now, that's a great question. That's a lovely picture she's
brilliant.
got there. So,
Yes.
yeah, I suppose that in the social media age, when it's pictures everywhere, why? That's a great question from her.
And I apologise, I'm going to come back to it, but our brain is trying to keep us safe. During the ages of 0 to 7, we are just a blank sheet of paper, and we're absorbing all sorts of stuff, some of which we know and some of which we don't. When we get to the next stage of brain development, which is 8 to 24, it's trying to get you to fit in. You need to be part of a community. You need to be part of the tribe. Back in our prehistoric days, if you weren't, you were outside and then prone to, all sorts of nasties. So consequently, there's this inner drive to make sure we're fitting in. And so we sometimes do things we don't want to do. And sometimes we're made to do things we don't want to do. But in order to fit in, we do them. And so for me, those filters that you're talking about, Francesca, are there to keep us safe and part of something.
That's really interesting because, generally, so many people are doing things because they have to be seen to be doing that way and fit in or
And
whatever.
everybody else is doing
There
it.
is the odd random person, such as my husband, who really doesn't give a toss about what anyone else thinks.
Yes.
And I love that. And we're trying to teach my son to be like that too, to be honest, because I think that's great resilience to have that. But what is it that, how can someone be so opposite? Is that still down to their experiences that they've built up from that?
Yeah, and they've somewhere along the line they've learnt to be themselves. I very often talk about, when people come to me, I'm clearing some of the debris of the past, because it's the learnings. When we're, as I say, those early years, we're taught who we're meant to be. I very often have conversations with people who have got lost, and they're in a role they didn't really want, but because the education system, their parental or familial sort of drove them in that way, or they didn't know what to do, they ended up in it. So we sometimes end up in a position where we don't even know how we got here, because it wasn't our decision per se. We're not being us. And I think, this idea of suddenly beginning to believe in yourself and, develop that self-esteem and that confidence to step out of that old way of being and be you, because you may well find that would make a big difference.
Absolutely. And I sort of becoming more and more familiar in reading up on neurodiversity.
Yeah.
And that often is, for example, autistic people are known often to mask, and then because there's so much pressure on them, that they end up with meltdowns, whatever. So by having that confidence of actually being just themselves,
Just you, yes.
not fitting that norm, that really helps. And in all your organizations, you will have somebody that is neurodivergent, and you might not understand that, and that's why they get burnout and all sorts of different things, isn't it? So
Yeah. People
really,
get to that point because they're not being themselves. They're being what everybody else expects them to be. And it's lovely to see people who are stepping up and becoming, who they want to be. And I'm finding, I'm a bit of an oldie, but there's a lot of younger people coming certainly into the accountancy profession. And, I'd put Francesca and I know one or two others, they are bringing something new and fresh into it because they're not being, for want of a better words, is being, surrounded by this old way of being. They're learning to be who they are. They're happy to be out on social media. They're more comfortable to do it. They're challenging the old the routines that we had, and that's brilliant.
which is great. It's so refreshing. It's not, companies not becoming the factories of people so much anymore, because certainly I've worked in a lot of American companies, and don't get me wrong, I loved all the companies, but there's so much about their particular culture. You do get a certain amount of brainwashing in there. So that's really good and fresh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So most important of what we're here to do, what can we do to improve it? What can we do to improve our confidence and our self-esteem?
So one of the things you talked about is this is for managers of people to spot when people are not being confident. And there's a whole raft of things that you can spot. But most people know, don't they? They know when somebody's not confident, either in a particular area or in general, because of their body posture or because they are.
Set up. No.
Well, no, they'll be more like this.
Like,
No, not necessarily.
don't want to be in the screen.
You can tell when they're not confident
Yeah.
because of the language that they're saying. They might be self-deprecating and constantly doing that. Oh, don't accept compliments because, it was just what I was supposed to do. So watch for the signs of what they're saying. Are they always saying, are they always referring to the team? And I love the fact that you acknowledge the team, but acknowledge yourself. It's really important. So the manager or whoever's managing the team is, if you watch for these signs, the other thing that you'll find is that we can usually tell something's wrong. We don't necessarily understand why, and that's a whole different conversation. But you can usually tell when somebody's not in the right space, can't you? You can feel it, you can sense it, whatever. Those are the times when potentially it could be that they are having a bit of a confidence, something going on, some doubt about themselves. And when you start to recognize those signs, what you can then do is open up the conversation. But in a way, I like coffee, coffee times for opening up these more, big conversations, and just ask them, how are they doing? One of the things I like to talk about is when you're talking to people, focus on the how question and the what question. Because what it does is allow them to come up with what's going on for them. The when, never use why when you're in this situation. It's got a bit of an accusatory part to it. But the when and all the others are not good. How and what. How are you doing? What's going on for you right now? How's that working out for you? You're opening them up and listen. Listen to everything they say. They say you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that order. Reflect back to them what's going on. Very often they may not tell you first time what's going on. It might take a while because it's personal, deeply private. Why would they share that with you? But if you can keep it to factual level, so what's going on for how you're getting on with your job, how you're getting on with that project, whatever, they can start to be a little bit more open to what's going on. Always be respectful. Clarify what you've heard. Make sure they've had opportunities to talk to you. And then, as long as you're keeping a dialogue open with them, you can start to guide them through the areas that they're struggling with. I could go on, but I'll just keep talking.
No, that's really good. So that gives some sort of ideas. But what if somebody is just really short of their confidence, what are sort of the baby steps that they could make? Is it that they go and get a coach? Is it that they need a mentor? All of the above. What are the practical things that they can go, oh God, yeah, I'm being held back by my lack of confidence. What do I go and do this afternoon to take that first step to improve?
So there's a lot of things people can do, and they possibly don't realize it. But obviously, speaking from the manager's perspective, you've got to be guided by them. So make some suggestions. What would work for them to help them, work through their lack of confidence? Because the lack of confidence, I believe, is a belief in themselves. It's the doubt in their own abilities. You telling them they're brilliant won't work. You telling them you've got this won't work, because they've got that inner doubt. So, they do need to work that through for themselves. And, by asking them what do they need is a really good question that allows them to come up with their answers, because it's for them. They may not want to share exactly what's going on, but what do you need to help you right now? What do you need to help you get through this?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have a situation we sort of often do see that there's a lot of often younger people that aren't confident with picking up the phone, and so what we try to do is go, well, actually, let's do joint, because we've got the technology now, we can do joint team calls and all sorts, or
Yeah.
real face-to-face calls, all old-fashioned telephone group calls or whatever. So, but by doing those steps, so they them to be participating and just there in the conversation, so they can see it, and then each time gradually they contribute more and more and more, until then eventually the senior person can step away, because
I think
they've got it.
Yeah, so it's the nurturing of them, and you're right, the small steps are great ways of doing it, but you do not suggest them, allow them to say what they can do, because you might find that they are more once they know they've got your support, they are more likely to be able to step up faster.
Great.
Because invariably, remember, they want to fit in,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to avoid mistakes. So help them overcome those. So fostering an environment, which is not always possible, but it is a little easier on the mistakes that are made. I know some of the big ones you wouldn't want to be, but there are some things that you can. So they stumble over a presentation. So they, struggle with, talking to clients. It's enabling them to do what they can to get them in that way. So small steps is absolutely the way to go. And yes, a coach or a mentor within the organization can be enough to help them go through, whatever it is they need to build up their own self-esteem. And help them move forwards in a pace that's right for them, because this is the key. It's unique, it's individual, and you've just got to understand what they need to be able to do that.
You don't want to go too fast and then they get overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know that you've got a big tip. We're gonna, want everyone on the hook to the end to hear the
Yes,
big tip.
the big
So
tip.
if anyone's got any more questions to come in, or experiences or certain scenarios where they found this lack of confidence, do share with us. In the meantime, while you guys are thinking of that, we do have we've got a good question from well, not question, Nance. Now I know why Francesca was talking about Nancy, because there's a Nancy watching. Of course. Right, now I understand. So Nancy was saying, I can agree with you, Kim. Staying true to yourself is so important. I found that while I worked as an accountant, I loved accountancy, but never felt it was my perfect fit. Now I absolutely love what I do. That's just so true, isn't it? If you're doing the thing that you like, it's then not difficult, is it? Because you
No.
just love it.
So it's starting within, which is the self-esteem side of things, and recognizing what's important to you and what you want to do from the individual's perspective. And it's down to the manager's perspective to understand, what is it I can do to help you do what you need to do. I was chatting with a new connection on LinkedIn the other day, and he was talking about the fact that he could do a load of different things. He could play in a band and stand up in front of people playing his music, and he could do all manner of different things. Get him in a presentation, he fell apart. And it is that he had a bad experience that taught him that. So all I would suggest is that this is a learning, and if you can learn it, you can unlearn it. How amazing is that? So it's just how you do that. So absolutely, once you find what's right for you, once you find what's right for your employee or individual, you'll find that they will just soar.
And you're right as well. It's about the nurturing that you've said already today, which is a good point that Kirsty's bringing in. Her manager, which we all know and love, she's got a manager who regularly says there's nothing that you can break that I can't fix. And that's really good. Then that takes away the scared factor, doesn't it?
It does. It's allowing us, because that's how we learn, is to fail. You know, when you're walking as a baby, we don't reprimand the child for falling over, do we, when they're first starting to walk?
I've got my son relearning cycling at the moment, and he fell off the other day. And oh no! But thank goodness he went straight back on, and he hasn't been faced. Thank goodness. And then Kirsty said she also had another thought of saying about which just reinforced what we said. Hugely empowering as an employer. You often excels. What's the worst that can happen? Helps me a lot. And that's often what I had to, as running a company, sometimes you can get overwhelmed by all the different things you're responsible for and what you've got to do. Sometimes you do have to just step back and think, what's the worst happen? Try and mitigate that and then crack on with the rest.
Absolutely. And so thank you, Kirsty. I think great that your manager is like that, great that the organization is like that. And I think the more organizations who can accept we're human.
Yeah. And that's why I'm trying to, with my team as well, mistakes do happen, but that's why you have checks and balances in place so it doesn't cost the client any money. It's part of the learning process. It's just part of the learning process. Everyone makes mistakes. And I mean, I still make a mistake here and there. Hardly ever, obviously. But there is the occasional.
Me too. So
especially when you're trying to do too many things. That's my classic thing. If I'm trying to do too many things at the same time, that's when it happens. You'll have so you just got to try the important things, try and concentrate, not multitask sometimes. So we 2 minutes left, so it's time for the big tip.
A big tip. So so if you're a manager, I think never assume. Even the most confident person may not be confident inside, and you won't know about it. So never assume. Always rely or fall back on the how and the what questions. How are you going to do it? What do you need? You're supporting them. That's my big thing, because the more you support them and allow them, like Kirsty said, to make the mistakes, because that's the way they grow and develop. And the interesting thing is, as they learn, grow and develop, everybody else starts to fall in with that as well, and they become more comfortable being who they are, which means the confidence levels will soar for more than just one person, because they know they're in a supportive environment they're going forward. So what and how, never assume, and just support.
Brilliant. And that's also can be applied to so many other things as well. That's really, really good. Thank you so much, Kim. That was brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
For anyone that would like to talk to Kim about whether they want coaching or just some general questions or speaking or whatever, we're all Kim's contact details are on LinkedIn. So if you're watching on LinkedIn Live, there should be a link to Kim on where you're watching, and obviously just search for her if not, or if you're having problems finding, just let me know and I will put you directly in touch. And hopefully you're not being put off and you're going to be back in a few weeks, Kim.
I would love to. Yes, thank you very much.
So Kim's going to be back with us in a few weeks. I can't remember which date it is now, but she's going to be coming back, which is another thing which lots of business owners have problems with, is sleep.
Yes.
So she's going to be talking to us about how to all sleep as a baby, hopefully, which is good for the business owners and your employees. So that's, I think, incredibly valuable. Because isn't it if you're tired, you lose 10 IQ points? Isn't that about right?
Well, I didn't know that, but so thank you. I've done a little bit of learning, but I do
Yep.
think our emotional and mental content are one of the big factors that
Yeah.
causes sleep distress.
Absolutely. So
Definitely.
next week, I believe it is Nigel's turn. I
I would
can't
choose.
remember what we're talking about now, but it will definitely be doing something about selling your business, some aspect of that, which I shall I'll be obviously putting up very shortly. So it's lovely, Nigel Elks. We'll be talking about succession planning and selling businesses next Friday. So please do join us. Kim will be back in a few weeks' time. And in the meantime, go bunk off. Go and have a lovely afternoon in the sun.
I am thinking about that myself.
Excellent.
Thank
Lovely.
you,
Well,
Nikki, and to everyone who tuned in. Thank you.
pleasure. Have a lovely weekend and cheerio.
Thank you. Bye-bye.